the new LinkedIn Hiring Pro can't undo your last hire. The empty seat. Who was actually just that, an empty chair in your office because you couldn't find someone to fill it. So it just sat there costing you money with all its fancy ergonomic features. But LinkedIn Hiring Pro can make it easy to fill that seat with the right candidate. With nearly 60% of businesses finding someone to interview in the first week alone. Hire right the first time with LinkedIn Hiring Pro. Post a free job today at linkedin.com/quality.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Women's Soccer Show. I'm Allie.
And I'm Sarah.
And yeah, we've just hit record right now because we were getting into a debate and Sarah was like, it's content, let's go!
Well, just to fill the people in, we're just going to jump in, everybody. Okay, go ahead, Allie.
So we were discussing the FA Cup, which we will talk about in more detail. We were seeing, Sarah was seeing what the reaction was over here in the UK. And I said, the only thing I'm really seeing from Chelsea fans is they're calling for Bompasta's head because they're saying she hasn't done anything this season specifically.
Right. And my response to that is like, oh, what? Boo-hoo. So you didn't win the league for the first time in what? 6 years? Like 7 years? Boo-hoo, I'm so sorry you're going to finish maybe third. You still have a Champions League spot. We're going to talk about it more, but they'll maybe have to be in whatever the play-in, whatever it is for the Champions League. And you were saying, yeah, but that's not the standard for Chelsea. So it is worthy of Bompaster's job maybe being called for. Is that correct? That's what you're saying?
Yeah, because like you look at the squad she's got, it's very disappointing.
I just okay. So here's what I have to say to this. I just think it's totally unrealistic, like this way of thinking, because it's like, first of all, there's only one Emma Hayes. I'm sorry, but your run had to end at some point. You've won the past 6 league titles in a row,
but even being unbeaten last season, their football wasn't good.
Well, that part's fair. But what I was saying right before we hit record was like, I feel like that is the mentality from an era when like United were not good. They like just entered the WSL. You were basically competing with Arsenal, and City were like starting to come up, but they had a terrible coach. So that was like kind of like, whatever, City, like you stay over there. And so you weren't really competing that much for that, like the top spot in the league. And now you are. So you can't, I feel like it's wrong to call for Bompaster's head just because all of a sudden, like, you didn't win the league, you didn't get to FA Cup, and you crashed out in the Champions League, which they went further in the Champions League than I thought they would. I think it's fair if you're saying that they're calling for Bompaster's head because of this, like how they're playing on the field. But I don't think it's fair to be like, we didn't win anything, fire the coach. Like, I think that's just an old way of thinking.
But that's football. And also, I very much disagree with how you have aligned it, because when you look at the Chelsea dominance, Man City were dominating. They'd got their title. They had the same coach forever. They didn't get the terrible coach until much later.
They never got a title. They haven't won the WSL since 2016.
Yeah, that was Nick Cushing. Right, so that's before the...
Oh, sure. I was talking about Gareth Taylor.
Yeah, but he didn't come in until well into the Chelsea dominance. That has nothing to do with anything. Nick Cushing got the title, and then he had a good couple of years, and then it was Gareth Taylor for the last couple. Arsenal have had a title since then.
But even so, United weren't in the mix, like...
And United are still not in the mix.
Fair, but I think we can objectively say, if you look back at, like, let's say 2016, 10 years ago when City last won the WSL title, I would say there is greater competition now for the top spot than there was 5 years ago, and then there was 16 years ago. Specifically, and in particular, 5 years ago, because under Emma Hayes, like, I don't even remember a title race that came down to the last day. It was just Chelsea's. They locked it down. That's it.
Well, that was 2 years ago. 2 years ago, it came down to the last day because Manchester United had to beat Chelsea, and it would have been Arsenal's. But it's that one. But it has been closer, and it's always been those top 3 teams. It's always been Arsenal, Chelsea, Man City, and Chelsea have always been dominant. But you look on paper, the squad that they have, the last 2 seasons, even going unbeaten, has been a disappointment. And I can see why they're calling for Bompaster's head. I can see it, because a different manager would be able to get a dominant squad out of the squad they've got.
Okay. I don't know. I don't know if I agree with that. I obviously agree with you. We've talked a lot about how like Chelsea are just so hard to watch, right? Like we agree on the point that like Chelsea are just, they're not playing good football, right? And they were getting wins, but they weren't playing well. And somehow finally like the rubber met the road and the wins stopped coming, right? But I think that I don't look at this squad and think they should be so much better. Like, oh, this is a lot of people left after Emma Hayes. They've brought in some young talent, but like we've talked about how Alyssa Thompson hasn't really come into her own yet. Like, and a lot of the talent that Emma Hayes had brought in what we can call the glory years, they're aging out. Millie Bright just retired. Sam Kerr is on the back end of her career. She's come back from an ACL. She looks great. She scored in the FA Cup semifinal. Looks great, but like, if I were to compare this squad to like a Chelsea of 3 years ago, the depth isn't there, the talent isn't there. Like I actually don't look at the squad list and think they should be outperforming Arsenal and City by light years. Like I really don't. I'm like, yeah, they should be competing. I think I don't like the style they play. So maybe I don't know if I want a Bonpastor back or not. That's not the point. Like I don't like how they play, and I think that the problem is in the recruitment and not, oh, this is the squad list. Where we went wrong is like going from the squad list onto the field. Maybe that's also part of the problem, but I don't think the squad list is the only problem. Does that make sense? I didn't get a lot of sleep last night.
I disagree with you, but it does make a lot of sense because that set of players under the right coach, take City's manager into Chelsea, they would be absolutely dominating. I can see why they're calling for Bonpastor's head. I really can.
Well, I guess we'll find out. To me, it kind of reeks of like a little temper tantrum because they didn't win something for the first time in like so many years. Okay, so welcome everybody. As you can tell, we're going to talk a lot about the FA Cup today. We're going to talk about the NWSL. FA Cup was wild. The 2 semifinals happened. We have our finalists. It's going to be City and Brighton. And so much went down in the NWSL, including Racing Louisville beating Portland. Was Sara right about Racing Louisville? What? Also, we need to discuss Manchester City. Allie, can I say it officially now? I'm getting scared.
Yes, you can say they've won the title.
They won the title. They won the title for the first time since 2016.
Guess who played disruptor? It was Brighton, because Arsenal couldn't beat Brighton in the league. It made it mathematically impossible for them to catch Manchester City, and so you now, after many full starts, can officially say that our 2025-2026 title winners are Manchester City.
Congratulations, Manchester City fans. We're happy for you. And for the record, if anybody's wanting to put some money down, I would maybe put money on Brighton in the FA Cup. You put maybe 20 down. You lose 20, that's okay. But if they win, you get a lot back. Just saying. Okay. And then this is the longest intro ever. So we're not even going to call this the intro. We're just into the show now. We have our FA Cup finalists. It's the Majesty of the FA Cup.
She finally gets it.
Thanks to Brighton, the Majesty and the magic is still alive. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, with the way the semi-finals fell, we still would have had, a non-top 4 team
totally
in the final, because they played Liverpool and obviously Chelsea, Manchester City played each other. So,
but I think I have hope now that the non-top 4 team will win. No offense to Liverpool, but I don't think I would have had hope.
I have more hope than when West Ham got to the final. I'll tell you that for nothing, because Brighton have already beaten Manchester City this season, so it's definitely doable.
It's doable. So it's Brighton and Manchester City. That'll be on May 31st. So we can all wipe our tears because, yes, the WSL will be over. Yes, Champions League will be over. However, you still get FA Cup. We're all going to have a tough time in June. I'm not going to lie.
But sadly, it does rule out both Manchester City and Brighton for the World Sevens tournament that's happening during the week before.
That's the saddest part of all of this,
it's
really.
so sad that they won't be taking part in this ridiculous tournament.
Oh, I love how every week now you've been able to slip in your real feelings about World Sevens. I'm not even thinking about this tournament, and you're like, however...
Guys, my only issue is it's called the World Sevens and it's only WSL teams. It makes no sense. It makes no sense.
It makes sense to me, though, as an American.
Good for... Oh, yes, I was going to say, it does make sense. I was like, oh, yeah, you and your World Series is...
The World Series. The world champions who won the Super Bowl. Ugh. Let me just say to everybody, it does bother me too, okay? It bothers us as well. Okay, moving along. We are all going to have a tough time in June. I'm not going to lie, because the NWSL is taking a break. They're not going to play in June. WSL will be over. Champions League will be over. FA Cup will be over. And all that will be on television is the Men's World Cup. So, I don't know. Schedule a vacation or something. Not to the United States. Big thumbs down. Okay. Anyways, back to the FA Cup. I'm a little loopy today. There were two games. It was Liverpool and Brighton and Chelsea, Manchester City. The first, the morning one that was far too early for me to watch was Liverpool-Brighton. Both of these games, for those of you who didn't watch, just go watch the highlights. I know highlights are usually boring. These highlights are not boring. Both of these games were insane. Like everything you could ask for from semifinals.
I am going to quickly call out our producer / researcher / editor Mike, because when we were talking about it last week, he did say the immortal words to Sarah. Well, the league game between these two wasn't very good, so I wouldn't bother getting up for it.
If it helps, I was working and I wasn't going to be up for it anyway.
So it shows what faith he had in his own team, but he was victorious in the end. So that one was insane because Liverpool went up very quickly. Within 22 minutes, they were 2-0 up. But then 108 seconds later, Brighton pulled one back to make it 2-1. We go into half-time and you think, okay, this is a game. Brighton are giving Liverpool a game, but it's probably going to be Liverpool. And then Brighton was like, hold my beer.
Insane. 54th minute, Madison Haley, and then the 95th minute. Injury time. The Dutch player herself, Nadine Noordam, put the game winner away.
Not only that, was subbed on for Fran Kirby, and it was literally minutes. It was minutes after being subbed on that she scored the winner. Like, it was just beautiful.
We have to give props to the manager because that takes some guts. That takes some chutzpah, as they say, because that is a managerial decision that if it doesn't pay off, everybody's going to look at that and think, why in the world would you take Fran Kirby off? Which,
when we look at our second semi-final, you'll see it's the same thing.
Mike, would you do us a favor if you care to be on the pod for a second and just unmute yourself and tell the class how you felt when that goal went in the 95th minute?
It felt really, really, really good. I'm not gonna lie to anybody. It felt incredible. So yeah, it was a bold move to take Kirby off. She was done. Seeing her walk around the pitch, she clearly had nothing left to offer. So Noordam comes on. It's her first ever goal for Brighton.
I was going to say, she hadn't scored for you yet, had she? It was...
No. And, you know, she's one of the players that's kind of been on the periphery. Obviously, with Kirby playing, you play her as much as you can. So she hasn't got a huge number of minutes. But no, I mean, it was amazing. It was slightly strange. I was in the wheelchair section, so I was kind of separated from the rest of the Brighton fans. So me and my brother who were there were kind of the only Brighton fans at the end where the goal went in.
Well, you were at the end where the goal went in too.
Yeah. So the rest of the away fans were down the far end, and so yeah, it's just me and him screaming at all these Liverpool fans standing beneath us.
Beautiful. You were literally screaming in the Liverpool fans' faces?
Yeah, fully.
Thank you, Mike.
You mentioned the management in the second half. I think Dario Vidicic has kind of proven himself as as a top quality in-game manager compared to his opposite number this week, certainly. But I think that's been the story of the last couple of games with this kind of amazing run that Brighton have been on. And I'm sure it probably shouldn't go noted that his dad passed away earlier in the year. He took some time off on compassionate leave. His dad was a part of the coaching staff at the club as well, so that was clearly something that affected the whole team. And it was great to see him kind of come back and take them on this run that's taken Brighton all the way to Wembley.
What a story. If that doesn't make you want to root for Brighton in the final, what does? Truly. Allie, is Mike allowed to stay here? Or does he need to get back into his box?
Back in your box, Michael. Back in your box.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you, Mike. I hope we keep the box bits in. Nobody's going to know what it means, though.
We need to.
What a game, Allie. I'm going to put you on the spot here. Between the two games, because they were both incredible semifinals. They both ended in 3-2 scorelines. Which was your favorite?
I will say it was probably the Brighton-Liverpool one, just because it felt more of an even match. Like, it was a proper FA Cup tie in the fact that Liverpool went up so early, and then Brighton got one back, and then you were rooting for it, and it went to half. Like, it was all just that proper, and it was an injury time winner.
You don't feel like the second one was close and a proper back and forth match?
No, because it literally, Manchester City were 2-0 down up until 82 minutes, and then they came back. Whereas this was a proper game of football. They were proper end to end stuff. Whereas it felt like the other game was Chelsea's until, and we can talk about it when we talk about that game. It was Chelsea's. Let's talk about it now, because that first half was all Chelsea. It was all Chelsea, and it was all Chelsea up until she made the substitutions. And the substitution was to take off the young defender, taking off Burton, and then taking off Thompson. And as soon as you did that, City went, we can get back into this, brought on Mary Fowler, who scored again within minutes of coming on.
She had a screamer of a game.
But only barely minutes of coming back on, and she scored that one goal. And then Bunny Shaw did Bunny Shaw things.
Okay. There's so much in what you even just said. I feel like there's 3 different things we should talk about within what you just said. So this is going to be fun. Okay, so yeah, just for anybody who didn't see, Chelsea, as Allie said, went up 2-0. They were up 2-0. It was a Cuthbert goal and a Kerr goal. It was only 1-0 at halftime, though. Sam Kerr's goal to put Chelsea up 2-0 came in the 59th minute. And then they were up 2-0 until the 86th minute when Mary Fowler scored. Buddy Shaw scored in the 91st minute. And then the game winner in the 103rd minute, because it went into overtime, extra time, as they say. Okay, let's talk about these substitutions for Chelsea first and foremost, because you're saying that this is where they lost the game. Verlie Berman was, for all intents and purposes, starting over Lucy Bronze. She came out in place of Lucy Bronze. I just want to start there because it's a bold statement to be and I'm not saying for me, I just think for the world of soccer, if you say when Lucy Bronze came in the game, City knew they could get back in it. Yeah, you don't hear that sentence a lot. What was the change in gameplay? Was it Lucy Bronze doing the one thing that has always been her Achilles heel and getting up too high?
Exactly it. And that was exactly why I knew that, because those City players, a lot of them played with her at Manchester City, have played with her at England. So they know that's what she do.
Well, I know what she does. Everybody knows what she does.
And that's exactly what Lucy Bronze did. She got far too high to try and make it 3-0. And that's why City players could get in behind her, whereas Berman was more of a typical defender and was staying back and was controlling the back. So, for me, it was definitely those substitutions. You were like, my dude, what are you doing?
And then the other one you said was that you didn't agree with was, Alyssa Thompson. Which is interesting because you haven't really rated her at Chelsea.
I haven't, to be honest. I really haven't. But there was some good gameplay between them. Lauren James had just got a yellow before taking her off, so I feel like there was a disruption in rhythm anyway by Boo doing that. But Cañada was not the one. Like, I'm looking at the bench, there was very little that should have gone. Maybe bring on Aggie Beaver-Jones beforehand. But I just think it was too much of a disruption.
Okay, that's super fair. So you really think City got back into this essentially when Lucy Bronze came onto the field, and that also kind of coincided with the disruption in Chelsea's attack. What do you think Bonepastor was thinking in this moment?
I think it was definitely game management. I do. I think she has said when they were asked why have you brought Lucy Bronze on, she said that she thought an experienced head would see out the game, and I completely understand why she would think that. I completely get why that's what you're going for, because obviously Birmingham's a very young player, and a 2-0 lead is still not the most solid of leads when they've got that much time. But yeah, I was like, I can see what she was thinking, but it unfortunately didn't pay off.
No, it didn't. This is kind of the opposite of the managerial decision we talked about with the Brighton-Liverpool game, or Liverpool-Brighton game, sorry. Where if it had paid off, she would have looked like a genius, but it didn't, and thus she doesn't. But we have to give credit to Manchester City, who did not let up, and we have to mainly give credit to Bunny Shaw, because, oh my God. So I guess I have two things to say. Number one, did you hear Chelsea fans chanting at Bunny Shaw after the game? They were chanting something along the lines of like, we'll see you next year, like, we get you next year, something, because massive rumors that Bunny Shaw is going to go to Chelsea. So they were basically just saying like, whatever, you're ours next year. Score those goals for us, which I think is kind of funny. Okay, having watched this game, Allie, was City the better side? Was it a tale of two halves? Was it even the whole time? Do you feel like it was Chelsea's? Yeah, tell everybody the flow of the game.
It definitely wasn't even the entire time. Chelsea absolutely dominated, I'd say, for the first 60 minutes. Never mind the first half, the first 60 minutes.
So the scoreline really does indicate exactly what was happening on the field, do you feel?
It really did, and you really felt that Manchester City were down and out. You felt, and I think that was the problem. I feel like the problem is that even Chelsea felt that, so they were sort of seeing out the game. Like, you look at when Fowler scored, she scored in the 86th minute. Now, you felt probably around the 80th minute, Chelsea was sort of playing a bit more defensively. They were, trying to keep the ball away from Manchester City because they were just seeing the clock out by that point. And unfortunately for them, Mary Fowler and Buddy Shaw happened.
Oh, I feel for Chelsea. Good on City. It's cliche. Winning is a habit, though. And Chelsea used to be this team that had the winning habits, that they could be down and out, they could have a bad game, and they'd be able to pull it out, whether it was coming from behind, whether it was that they had 2 shots on target and one of them went in, like whatever it was, they used to be able to pull it out. And this time it's City, and yeah, winning's a habit. City won the title, and now they have chance at more hardware, and it's just been that kind of a year. I feel like when you believe in yourself that much, like I think that Chelsea's mentality has also really wavered this year, and City's hasn't. Before we move on from English football, I'm really not just trying to bring it around to Arsenal, but we have really big. I was going to do this in the intro, but then we just started right off the bat. We have to talk about this. This is big news.
Is it though? Because I was talking about this in my football group chat, and I was like, this is the worst kept secret in women's football, because everybody knew this was going to happen.
I don't think we knew. Like, there have been rumors, but rumors have been flying around. Like, it's going to be news. For example, this feels kind of akin to like Sam Kerr. If Sam Kerr doesn't return to Chelsea, it's not like, oh my God, what? But it's still really big news, right? Anyways, Beth Mead has announced that she will be not leaving Arsenal. She's not returning to the Gunners, and we have seen the rumors that she was going to become part of the London City Lionesses. We've seen rumors that basically everybody on planet Earth is going to be part of the London City Lionesses, including Alexia Putellas, and I hope that doesn't happen. I hope she stays at Barcelona, but that's not what we're talking about here. Anyways, it's not really something we were going to discuss. We were going to share this big news because it's big news in the world of football, and I do feel like it's kind of part of the era of Arsenal that the old guard is like I think we're going to start to see a lot of these. It's going to hurt my heart.
Yeah, there's definitely a few of those for me that's been like that. Obviously it's not just Beth Mead, it's Cadena is also leaving.
Oh my god, I didn't see that.
Yeah, Cadena's leaving, and Palova's leaving as well. Those are the three that Arsenal have announced. It would appear that Beth Mead is going up north, so it would be I
thought she was going to London City.
No, it's now looking like either Manchester City or Manchester United.
That's funny because my first thought was like, I wonder why she would go to London City if she's changing teams. Why not be in Manchester where her partner is? Well, there you go.
Yeah. So Manchester City apparently are the front runners to sign her, but Manchester United could swoop in because apparently she's a United fan. So
if I'm Beth Mead and I'm between two options there, I'm going to City. I'm not even saying like for personal reasons. It might even be better for personal reasons. I don't know their situation, but like sometimes you don't want to be on the same team as your partner. Maybe you don't. But I just mean, how much have we talked about how United don't back their women's team? Like for that and that alone, they have made it very clear they don't give a flying F about where they train, what they do, doesn't matter. And for that reason alone, I'm crossing United off the list. If I'm Beth Mead, which I'm not.
No, I completely get it. Very quickly, before we move on to your point about, big players leaving and retiring, Lucy Staniforth announced her retirement from both international and domestic football. She'll be finishing out career at Aston Villa. That's another big player from my watching days, from being at, Sunderland, and big time player, Lucy Staniforth. So
I loved what she did at United. I thought she never got the credit she deserved when she was at Manchester United. She was great for them.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So it's another one where I'm like, oh, I'm getting old. All these players are retiring. I'm getting old.
All right. Well, sorry to end it on that note, everybody, but there you go. Let's go around the world. Around the world, around the world.
To Germany, and Wolfsburg are the second team to confirm their Champions League spot. The third place spot will come down to the final day. Eintracht Frankfurt need a draw or a win to claim it. Leverkusen need a win and a Frankfurt loss, and Hoffenheim need to win by 2 or more goals, and then losses from Eintracht and Leverkusen.
To Mexico, we have our finalists. Club America were the winners over Toluca with an astounding scoreline of 11-4 on aggregate. They will be facing Monterrey, who beat Pachuca 4-3 on aggregate, despite losing the first leg 2-0.
Rangers beat Partick Thistle 3-0 to keep the pressure on Hearts. The Edinburgh team themselves extended their lead by beating Celtic 2-1. Glasgow City missed the opportunity to go above Rangers after their loss to Hibs.
And finally, to Italy, Roma are one game away from taking the title in Serie A. They further their lead with their 3-0 win this weekend. Inter lost their chance to close the gap as they could only manage a draw with Juve.
Experience a membership that backs your business journey with American Express Business Platinum. When you pay with membership rewards points for all or part of an eligible flight booked with a qualifying airline through Amex Travel, you can get 35% of those points back, up to 1 million points back per calendar year. American Express Business Platinum. There's nothing like it. Terms apply. Learn more at americanexpress.com/business-platinum.
This spring, Uber Eats has you covered. Whether you're celebrating mom, dad, or your favorite grad, not all of us are great planners, and with the Uber Eats gift hub, you don't have to be. Send flowers, perfume, champagne, or just their favorite meal straight to their door. Gifts arrive in as little as 25 minutes, and you can add a personalized video message for that additional so-not-last-minute touch. So this spring, get a leg up on gift giving with Uber Eats. Last-minute gifts that land every time. Must be 21 or older to purchase alcohol. Product availability varies per region. See app for details.
Over now to Sarah's side of the pond, and the NWSL is as crazy as ever. We said it last week, and I'll say it again this week. This season is giving everything. Last season, we said, no offense, was a bit of a snooze fest. This season, however, has gone, you want chaos? We will give you chaos. So, first up, Friday night game. Portland had been absolutely cruising in the league, come unstuck against Racing Louisville. Does this mean anything towards the Shield winners, to Racing's potential? What does it mean?
I don't think it means anything for Portland. Portland are still in first place in the standings, mind you. 19 points. They're just 1 point clear of Washington and San Diego, just 2 points clear of Utah. But like, they're even with the loss, they are still held on to first place. That's how well they were doing. Like, they were phenomenal. I don't think it means anything for Portland. You can't win every game, period, the end. Like, moving it along. Racing, I promise I don't want to just talk about this to say I'm right, because I know I also can't say I'm right from one game. However, I do think that this game means nothing in terms of, like, we can't extrapolate anything for Portland. You lose some games, period, the end. I do think it means something for Racing. And what it means is they're not as bad as their record indicates. They can be really hit or miss. They've lost 3 out of the last 5. So I'm not saying that they're this, like, fantastic team. But when they're good, they're so good. And when they're bad, it's not fantastic. They can score a lot of goals. Their issue is that they don't have a defense. And their defense came up big in this game, and they only allowed Portland that 1 goal. But the problem with Racing is that they're going to get into a shootout, and they can win that sometimes, but they're not always going to win it. You look at the standings, and they've scored 13 goals, which is a lot. You have to go all the way up to San Diego in 3rd place to get another team that has scored either 13 or more goals. The only 2 teams that have scored more than 13 are Washington and Portland. But then you look at their goals against, they've allowed 15. That's 2nd worst in the league. The only team that's allowed more is Chicago. So therein lies the problem for Racing. And they have such a high ceiling. The question is, can they even get there if their defense doesn't come up? And I feel like this game against Portland was an indication of, like, what Racing could be if they didn't allow so many goals. And it's top of the league, really. But that's just going to be the issue for Racing this year, and that's going to be the battle. Can they make some moves in the transfer windows to maybe combat that is the big question.
I'm going to say something that is potentially offensive to Racing Louisville, and I'm sorry, but they remind me of Tottenham.
Yeah.
They have got some firepower and will and can strike, but their defense is as useful as a chocolate teapot. I will say Katie O'Kane had a great game for a midfielder. Got, bagged her 2nd and 3rd goal for Racing, because she's not really scored much because that's not her job.
Yeah. And Emma Sears got on the scoreboard as well. I will say Sophia Wilson just scored in, was either her second, I think it's her 2nd game straight. Maybe it's her 3rd game straight. She has been on a roll. I think it's her 3rd game straight, you guys. Don't quote me on that. I didn't look it up. But she's on a roll. She's back in fine form. And that's really fun to see as a U.S. Women's National Team fan. So, yeah. Portland, don't worry, you're sitting pretty. Racing, you got to bring in something to shore up this back line. That's what you need. You need to make a big move and then make a run at the playoffs.
The other team I really want to talk about is Orlando, who did get a win this weekend. They beat the North Carolina Courage 1-0. Do we think this changes much? Because it was a very late goal. It was a very defensive performance by both teams. Barbara Banda got the goal in the 87th minute. Does this change how we feel about Orlando, or no?
Not in the least. Orlando's in trouble. And Orlando's in trouble in a very similar way that Racing are in trouble. But I'm more worried about Orlando, actually, than I am about Racing Louisville. And here's why. They both leak goals. Orlando leaks goals like crazy. This is their first shutout in, I should have done the math before we hopped on, in a long time, okay? Like, they were leaking goals. The last clean sheet that they had was March 29th. So they're leaking goals, period, the end. It's like scoring is not their problem. That is the similarity with Racing. Here's where they differ and why I'm more worried about Orlando. Racing Louisville have multiple people who can and will score a lot of goals. Barbara Banda has proven to be the only player in the last 3 games who can score for Orlando. I believe they lost 3-2 against Racing Louisville. Barbara Banda had a brace. They lost 4-2 against Washington Spirit. Barbara Banda had a brace. They beat North Carolina 1-0. Barbara Banda scored that 1 goal. She scored 5 goals in the last 3 games, and Orlando have had 1 win out of that. Granted, Marta's been a little hurt. I think you can't underestimate the presence of Marta on the field, what she can do, the ball she can play in. Like, things change for Orlando when Marta's on the field. Mind you, obviously she can score as well, but she's been injured. She's been in and out, and you can't be a totally different team if Marta's on or off the field. I know it's Marta, and maybe that's a weird thing to say because it's like this is the great that we're talking about, but they're just too reliant. They're too reliant on the goals coming from Barbara Banda, and they're too reliant on the midfield balls in from Marta. They're too heavily reliant on too many individual talented players, and it's not going to work out well for them.
Yeah, Orlando are currently 7th after playing 8 games with 11 points. So they're doing okay, but considering they did the double a couple of years ago, it is a bit concerning.
Yeah, I think obviously if this was like Chicago performing like this, I think you make a good point. Like if this was Chicago performing like this, we'd be like, look at Chicago go. They might have a chance at the playoffs. And I think it's shocking because it's an Orlando team that is in way worse form than we expected. That's not to say they're bad, but they're worse than they should be right now.
Speaking of worse than they should be, Kansas City Current finally won a game, but it was against Chicago. So
again, though, like they have 12 points. They're in 6th place. They have a game in hand.
Yeah, they shut up the table.
I know so they've won their last 2. They've won 3 out of the last 5. But yes, to your point, Allie, just a horrific start, wasn't it, for them?
Considering where they were last season, it really wasn't good.
Terrible. And I actually think it kind of mirrors Orlando in a way where Kansas City, at least they've proven to everybody that they do have multiple goal scorers, ? But also, like, maybe do they? Like, they do. You look at their roster and you're like, what is going on here? We talked about this last week, Allie, where I was like, the only assumption I can make about this team is that based on the roster they have, this has to be about the coaching change, because that's the only reasonable explanation for this. Yes, you lose Claire Hutton, but you bring in Croy Bethune. Like, it's... Anyways, we're not going to get into all of that. We talked about that last week. Everybody go to last week if you want to hear us talk about Kansas City and specifically about what we think was going wrong. Spoiler alert, we think it's the coach because of Vlatko Andonovski's leaving. And anyways, Casey Current did win. They did beat Chicago 3-0. Temwa Shawinga scored all 3 goals. She had a hat trick. Temwa Shawinga was injured at the beginning of the season. Her coming back is very in line with Kansas City's turnaround. Are they too reliant on Temwa Shawinga?
To be honest, yes, because we saw what happened when she was injured for a little bit. We've seen when she's not in the match what happens. So yes, I think it's an Orlando situation. They've got Barbara Banda. Shawinga is Kansas City's, and they need to sort that out.
Yeah, which just doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense. You look at their team sheet and like they shouldn't be structured that way. Which is, again, why I then go back to, like, I think it's a coaching thing because, you know, they weren't that reliant on, they were obviously reliant on her to some capacity last year because she's Temwa Shawinga, but not to the degree that they are this year. And that's why I just have to come to the assumption that this is a shift in how they play, a shift in the coaching, that it's that their play style is more reliant on her threat up top than it was last year. because there's too many players on this team that should be able to score. I mean, Allie Sentner, Lo LaBonta, Croy Bethune, there's just too many.
To name but a few.
But a few.
To round out our NWSL chat, we want to talk about teams that Sarah highlighted. So two teams Sarah was like, we should watch out for, and we have, and they have been mightily inconsistent, shall we say? Which is Houston Dash and Utah Royals. First off, I would like to shout out Denver Summit, who absolutely smashed their game against Houston Dash, winning 4-1, and Utah could just about scrape a 0-0 draw against Bay. What is going on with your picks, my friend? Though Utah are still fourth, I will say that.
Utah, sitting in fourth, 17 points. A win against Bay would have been huge. It would have put them tied in first place with the Thorns. Okay. I suppose inconsistent. I would say Houston maybe are the more inconsistent. Houston were rolling at the start of this season. And I think that there's been a lot of chat that's like, well, some of those wins, like they didn't play well, they scraped it out, like maybe they weren't as good as everybody was saying. I don't actually believe that. I think what happened with Houston is that they were off to a really hot start. And then a key player got injured in Mackenzie Roby. And Mackenzie Roby was key for them for multiple reasons, including production. 2 goals and an assist in the first 3 games. That's great production from her coming from the up top position. She brought a veteran presence up top to a lot of youth. And then beyond that, like I think she was very important for their press. Houston's a very high pressing team. And Mackenzie Roby was the one who kind of orchestrated and started all of that. And you look at their game from this past weekend, you just mentioned that they got smacked by Denver. And they got smacked. Like that was a ugly game for Houston. That wasn't like, oh, we played well, but we conceded some goals. No, that was a bad game for the Dash. And their identity is as this high press team, but there was no high press to be found. And I just have to kind of liken this to, I know you can't hang everything on like one player's missing, but I do think that for this team, Mackenzie Roby was that key. And I don't think that they knew how key she was until she went down. And unfortunately, she's on the SEI on the season-ending injury list, so we won't see her again this year, which is a huge bummer. And beyond that, I think that it's impacted them with their depth. They just don't have enough depth to get through this season. She was a key starter. You don't have her, somebody who is going to be your depth on the bench, then comes in. They're going to be the starter. You're really thin on the bench then. They're not getting production off of the bench. And the question for Houston is, where are the goals coming from? Because they're starting to lose a lot of them.
You are not wrong, but I will, like I said, give a big shout out to Denver.
Huge shout out to Denver. They played fantastic. Utah, I'm not too worried about Utah. I think the kids are all right. The kids are all right. Yes, they tied with Bay, but Bay has been very up and down. They've had some big wins. I mean, they just beat San Diego last weekend, 1-0. Like they've proven that, again, similar to other teams at the bottom of the table. Like if they don't concede, they can battle at the top of them. But from the jump, from the first game for Bay, we were like, their backline's going to be a problem because 3 out of their 4 potential starters are on maternity leave. But maybe their backline's starting to shore up. So I don't think I'm worried about Utah whatsoever. Like you look at their last 5, they've won 4 and drawn 1. I believe this is a now 7-game unbeaten streak still, where they have won 5 and drawn 2. So we're not worried about Utah. We're worried about Houston for sure.
Okay. And then you wanted to quickly talk about Gotham Boston.
Allie, if you haven't seen the score, go rewatch this game. Okay. I will be the first to say I kind of made fun of the fact that when Boston came into the league, they immediately declared that their rivals were Gotham. They were like, Boston, New York, rivalry, like Gotham, we hate you. And I was like, okay, everybody calm down. That's not what's happening here. That was a rivalry game. That was a fun, energetic, anything goes rivalry game. That was a wonderful game to watch. And Boston, who were down and out, and I know they're still technically in 16th place of 16 teams. Doesn't matter. 3 great games for Boston in a row right now, including their first win. They got 2 draws, including this one against Gotham. Like, this is an exciting team to play, or to watch play. Their first game of the season, I was like, I'm uninterested in watching them. I don't think they're fun to watch. I fully take that back now. Everything has changed. This is an exciting team to watch. Their energy is exciting. They're building something. They're building week to week. Boston, I'm really excited about right now. Gotham are good too. For the record, we've not spent a lot of time on Gotham. Gotham FC, want to talk about defense? Where are all the defenders? Well, they're Gotham FC, who have only conceded 5 goals all season in 9 games. They can't score that much. They've only scored 9 goals in 9 games, but it doesn't matter because they've only conceded 5.
So basically you're saying that Gotham in the transfer window need to get some strikers.
Yeah, which is wild because it's like, look at who they have. They have Esther Gonzalez. They have Jaden Shaw. They have Rose Lavelle. I will say in this draw with Boston, Rose Lavelle wasn't in. Emily Sonnet came off the bench in the second half. There were like a lot of key pieces missing. I'm not trying to take anything away from Gotham or from Boston, but I don't know. I guess I'm saying that they need to go get more strikers, but like, do they? I don't think that they do. They've got plenty of them. They just need to get rolling, I guess. All right, Allie, 2 questions for you. Are you still an Orlando fan?
I mean, we all know that Gotham is my team, but I have a soft spot for Orlando.
You had a very big soft spot for them.
I do, because they had, you know, because they were so at the bottom and they were literally gutted and they were down and out, and then they rose to the top and they won.
You didn't like them anymore once they won?
No,
you were done?
I've always been a Gotham, mainly because NYC is one of my favourite cities, so I've always been a Gotham fan. But I still have a very big soft spot, and it disheartens me to see how they fell so quickly again. And I love their coach as well. I love their coach, and I'm like,
Juan Carlos?
No, Orlando. Yeah, Mr. Hines. I think he's one of the greatest coaches in the game at the moment, and something's clearly not happening.
We hope that they will figure it out. A reminder to everybody, NWSL is playing through May 31st, and then they're going on break, and they'll be back July 3rd, and we will all cry in June. That's it for us here at the Women's Soccer Show. I've been Sarah.
And I've been Allie.
Thank you, everybody.
Good night.